Think you know the best places to retire in America? Think again. The most comfortable retirements aren't found in the Sunbelt hotspots or coastal cliches. They're hidden in towns you've probably never heard of, where a full-sized house costs less than rent in most cities, and some states won't tax a dime of your Social Security. In this countdown of the 10 secret retirement locations you've probably never heard of, you'll discover why a Riverview in Natchez, Mississippi, could leave you with more cash to live on than Naples, Florida, or how a quiet life in Waycross, Georgia, can stretch your retirement income by 15%. But these hidden gems come with trade-offs most retirees never consider, and some might change the entire way you think about your golden years. Are you ready to see where the real value and the real risks are hiding? Natchez, Mississippi. Riverviews, antebellum mansions, and a cost of living that makes most retirement calculators blush. Here, a median home runs just over $108,000, less than the price of a parking spot in Manhattan. Rent? You'll find places under $600 a month, and that's not a typo. But the real savings come from the state's tax code. Mississippi doesn't touch a dime of your Social Security or any retirement withdrawals. That 401k you've been nursing for decades? No state income tax, no matter how much you pull out. The math gets even better when you add in property taxes. Mississippi's rates are among the lowest in the country, so your annual bill for a fully paid-off house often lands south of $1,000. For retirees on a fixed income, that means more left over for the things that actually matter, like a second helping of bread pudding at the King's Tavern, or a day trip along the Natchez Trace Parkway. The town itself feels like a movie set, all Spanish moss and ironwork balconies. Natchez sits high above the Mississippi River, with sunset views that would bankrupt a Florida condo association. The historic downtown is walkable, peppered with antique shops and old-school diners where the daily special hasn't changed since 1973. Of course, there's a catch. Natchez is rural, and the pace is slow. You won't find a Whole Foods or a bustling arts scene. Specialized healthcare can mean a drive, and if you're used to Uber on demand, you'll need to adjust your expectations. But for anyone tired of watching their retirement evaporate in tax bills and HOA fees, Natchez is proof that you don't have to sacrifice comfort or history to make your money last. Here, every dollar stretches just a little further, and the biggest risk is running out of things to spend it on. Waycross, Georgia. Swamp country, train whistles, and a budget that makes even the savviest retiree pause. Here, the numbers do the heavy lifting. The cost of living index lands 15% below the national average, which means basic expenses, from groceries to utilities, are noticeably lighter on the wallet. A classic 3-bedroom ranch. Most listings hover under $150,000, and that's not a misprint. For plenty of retirees, that's less than they paid for their last car. But the real ace up Waycross's sleeve is Georgia's tax code. Social Security benefits? Untaxed. Pensions and retirement account withdrawals? The state gives you a generous exclusion, up to $65,000 per person per year if you're over 65. That's a tax break big enough to make even the most die-hard Floridian do a double take. It all adds up to more breathing room in the budget, especially if you're counting every dollar. Downtown Waycross is a time capsule of brick storefronts and faded Coca-Cola signs, with a main street that hasn't changed much since Eisenhower was in office. The Okefenokee Swamp sits at the edge of town, a sprawling wilderness that draws birdwatchers, kayakers, and anyone who prefers gators to traffic jams. The pace is slow, the air smells like pine, and the loudest noise most afternoons is the distant rumble of a freight train heading for Jacksonville. Of course, the trade-off for all these savings is the rural reality. Big city amenities? Not here. The nearest major airport is over an hour away, and public transit is basically wishful thinking. If you're looking for a symphony orchestra or a sushi bar that stays open past 8 p.m., you'll need to drive. Probably a long way. But for those who crave quiet, low costs, and a little slice of southern wild, Waycross delivers. Here, dollars stretch, time slows, and retirement feels a lot less like a countdown and more like a second act. Danville, Virginia. Tobacco warehouses, red brick factories, and a downtown that used to clear out by 5. But the old Milltown routine got a $300 million rewrite, and the River District is now the poster child for small city comebacks. 17 historic tax credit projects later, the city's annual tax haul from the district has jumped from just $25,520 to over $480,000. That's not a typo. Nearly 20 times more revenue, all from breathing new life into boarded-up buildings. The River District's turnaround didn't happen by accident. City leaders bet big on a mix of public and private investment, widening sidewalks, planting green spaces, and letting artists and entrepreneurs take over the old Tobacco Row. The result? Coffee shops, lofts, galleries, and restaurants that keep the lights on long after sunset. It's not just about aesthetics. Those tax credits turned empty warehouses into apartments and studios, drawing a new crowd of residents who want walkability and character, not just cheap rent. Climate is another selling point. Danville delivers all 4 seasons, but without the sticky, suffocating heat you get farther south. Winters are mild, summers don't fry your brain, and fall means actual foliage, not just a slow browning of the grass. The cost of living stays low. Median home prices hover around $110,000, and Virginia, like its neighbors, doesn't tax Social Security. That's more breathing room for fixed incomes, and more to spend on the River District's First Friday Art Walks, or the next farm-to-table bistro opening down the block. There's a catch, of course. Danville's size means you won't find a symphony or a pro sports team, and if you need to catch a flight, it's a drive to Greensboro or Raleigh. But for retirees who want a city with momentum, and a downtown that's more than just a memory, Danville's Renaissance is proof that you don't have to choose between affordability and vibrancy. Here, old tobacco money's been replaced by tax credits and creative energy, and the River District is just getting started. Paducah, Kentucky. A river city with a flair for reinvention and a creative streak you can measure in millions. When other small towns were chasing factories or strip malls, Paducah doubled down on the arts. The gamble? It paid off, big time. In 2013, Paducah landed a spot on UNESCO's Creative Cities list, the world's 7th city of crafts and folk art. That puts it in rare company, right up there with Santa Fe, Kanazawa, and Ikeyan. But this wasn't just a branding exercise. The city built its reputation on a radical idea. Bring in artists, give them the keys, and let them transform a neighborhood. The Artist Relocation Program rewrote the rules. Local banks offered 100% financing, no down payment, 30-year fixed rates, and loans that could go up to 3 times the property's appraised value. Why? Because most of the houses in Lower Town were so run down, you needed that much just to make them livable. The city chipped in too. Free lots for new builds, $2,500 for architectural fees, and tax-exempt materials. The result? More than $12 million in private investment poured into the neighborhood, with some estimates topping $15 million. Over 75 artists and creative businesses set up shop, turning empty streets into a mosaic of galleries, studios, and live workspaces. The impact goes beyond economics. Paducah's Lower Town is a working arts district, not just a tourist photo op. First Friday gallery walks, mentorships with local schools, and artist-in-residence exchanges with other UNESCO cities keep the creative energy humming. But for retirees, the draw isn't just the art, it's the lifestyle. Here, You get the perks of a vibrant cultural scene and the kind of walkable neighborhood where neighbors know your name. The trade-off? The nearest major airport is a drive, and you won't find big city anonymity. But if you want your retirement dollars to fund more than just square footage, if you want them to buy you a front-row seat to creativity, Paducah delivers. The only catch? You might have to wait in line behind the next wave of artists hoping to call it home. Paris, Tennessee. Small town, big personality, and a retirement pitch that leans hard into local flavor. There's a 70-foot Eiffel Tower in the park, a main street that feels like a Norman Rockwell painting, and the kind of Friday night catfish fry that draws half the county. Housing here is cheap. Think $125,000 for a tidy 3-bedroom, and Tennessee's tax code leaves Social Security alone. On paper, it's the stuff of retirement brochures, but the real story in Paris isn't just the low cost of living or the quirky landmarks. It's what happens when you need a doctor, fast. Henry County Medical Center, the town's only hospital, has been bleeding red ink for years, racking up losses close to $10 million annually and debt in the $20 to $30 million range. In September 2023, the hospital shuttered its obstetrics unit, turning Paris into a maternal care desert overnight. For families, that means a 40-mile drive just to deliver a baby. For retirees, it's a warning shot. The safety net here is fraying. This isn't just a Paris problem. Across Tennessee, nearly 45% of hospitals are now at risk of closure, the highest figure in state history. The math is brutal: rising costs, low TennCare reimbursements, and a shrinking pool of rural doctors. In 2024, Henry County Medical Center narrowly avoided total shutdown by signing a 25-year lease with West Tennessee Healthcare, who'll keep the ER and basic services running. But specialties like cardiology and oncology, no guarantees. The hospital's future is now tied to a regional chain, and the community's largest employer is running on borrowed time. Paris still offers the good life: slow mornings, friendly neighbors, and a festival calendar that's heavy on bluegrass and pie contests. But for anyone weighing a move, the real calculus isn't just about stretching your pension. It's whether you're comfortable betting your health on a system where nearly half the hospitals could go under. Here, the charm is real, but so are the trade-offs. Hot Springs, Arkansas, Spa Town, National Park Gateway, and the kind of place where wellness isn't a buzzword, it's built into the water. The springs here run 143 degrees straight from the ground, feeding historic bathhouses and modern spas that have been drawing visitors since before the Civil War. For retirees, it's not just about soaking. Hot Springs has quietly embraced Blue Zones living. Walking paths, gardening clubs, and group meditation are all part of the local routine, nudging residents toward healthier habits without the preachy sales pitch. Monthly rents start around $2,295 for independent living, which undercuts most big city options, and includes access to those famous mineral baths. The city's senior population hovers near 44%, so you won't be the only one swapping knee replacement stories at the coffee shop. And the healthcare scene is solid for a town this size: enough doctors and clinics to keep up with demand, but not so many that you're just another number in the waiting room. But the real trade-off is climate. Summers here aren't just warm, they're sticky. Humidity cranks up in June and doesn't let go until well into September. That means more time indoors, unless you're the type who thinks sweating through your shirt is a wellness practice. The upside? Winters are mild, and the threat of hurricanes or coastal flooding is basically zero. For those who can handle a little Arkansas steam, Hot Springs offers a retirement that's equal parts spa day and small-town comfort, where the biggest risk isn't your cholesterol, it's whether you'll ever get used to walking outside and feeling the air hug you back. Sebring, Florida. Lake country, golf carts, and a retirement formula that skips the sticker shock of coastal living. Here, The numbers actually work for people on a fixed income. Assisted living averages $3,532 a month, well below what you'll pay in most of the state's beach towns. Nearly half the population is over 60, so the local culture bends toward seniors. Morning walks around Lake Jackson, shuffleboard tournaments that draw a crowd, and a calendar packed with community events that don't require a trust fund to enjoy. But the real draw isn't just affordability. It's the way Florida's tax code lets you keep more of your Social Security and retirement income. No state income tax, no tax on pension or IRA withdrawals, and property taxes that don't eat your savings alive. For retirees who've watched insurance premiums double on the coast, Sebring's inland location means you're not paying a premium just to keep your roof covered during hurricane season. Most homeowners here skip the extra flood insurance entirely. Healthcare access stacks up surprisingly well for a town this size. Advent. Health Sebring anchors the local medical scene with more than a dozen cardiologists, crucial when 48% of your neighbors are seniors. Assisted living options outnumber what you'll find in many bigger cities, and wait lists are rare. The trade-off? You won't get the ocean breeze, but you also won't get hit with a $10,000 hurricane deductible or spend 6 months waiting for a primary care appointment. For retirees who want Florida sunshine without the coastal chaos, Sebring offers a pragmatic alternative where your money and your peace of mind go further. Englewood, Florida. Gulf breezes, endless sunshine, and a winter population that explodes from 48,000 to over 70,000 almost overnight. For snowbirds chasing warmth, it sounds like paradise, until the hidden costs start piling up. After Hurricane Ian tore through in 2022, insurance companies rewrote the rules. Deductibles that once hovered around $1,000 now average $6,000 for a modest home, and plenty of policies are pushing 5% or even 10% of your dwelling value. On a $300,000 house, that's a $15,000 check before repairs even start. Premiums? Statewide, they're up nearly 40% since Ian, with some homeowners shelling out $5,300 a year just to keep coverage. And if you're thinking Citizens, the state-backed insurer, is a safety net, think again. Their rates are climbing fast, and they're warning they can't cover a true catastrophe without hitting every Florida policyholder with a special assessment. It isn't just storm bills that spike in season. Healthcare turns into a waiting game. When the snowbird population swells, so do the lines at every urgent care clinic and specialist office. State standards say you should get a primary care appointment within 30 days. But in January, good luck. Lee County hospitals, just down the road, report that snowbirds account for a quarter of all ER visits in winter, and routine appointments can stretch weeks past the official guidelines. Local clinics scramble to keep up, but the numbers don't lie. During peak months, even established patients face delays, and new arrivals are often told to wait until spring or hit the ER for anything urgent. For retirees, the math gets complicated fast. That low-tax Florida dream comes with a catch. Storm-driven deductibles that can wipe out a year's budget and a healthcare system that runs at full tilt every winter. In Englewood, the sun is free, but every other comfort has a price. And it's rising with every hurricane season and every snowbird migration. Litchfield Beach, South Carolina. On the surface, it's the classic retirement fantasy: salt air, sand dunes, and a pace that drifts with the tide. But for anyone thinking of parking their nest egg here, the real math starts with a different kind of ledger. Flood insurance, for starters, runs about $650 a year on average. But that's just the entry fee. Sea level rise projections put 3 feet of water on the table by 2070, which means today's charming beach cottage could be tomorrow's insurance headache. The National Flood Insurance Program keeps changing the rules, And as of this year, premiums are climbing fast for homes even a block off the water. Some owners now face annual bills north of $1,200, and that's before factoring in mandatory elevation upgrades or the cost of a post-storm cleanup. And then there's Charleston, West Virginia. No sandbags required. Here, a median home goes for $154,000, and flood risk is something you read about, not something you live. The city delivers 4 real seasons, a walkable downtown, and healthcare access that doesn't involve a 3-hour wait for a specialist. Social Security benefits, untaxed. The homestead exemption shaves hundreds off your property tax bill if you're 65 or older. Even assisted living averages just over $4,400 a month, about half what you'll pay in most coastal hotspots. The trade-off? Fewer direct flights, and you'll swap hurricanes for the occasional snowstorm. But for retirees who want city perks without the sticker shock or the weather drama, Charleston quietly checks every box. When it comes to stretching retirement dollars and sleeping through storm season, sometimes the best view isn't from a stilt house, but from a porch where the only thing rising is the morning sun. Across these 10 locations, the numbers speak for themselves. In Natchez, Mississippi, retirees can rent for under $600 a month, while in Waycross, Georgia, the cost of living is 15% below the national average. Danville, Virginia's $300 million downtown revitalization, and Paducah, Kentucky's UNESCO-backed artist program show how small towns can reinvent themselves. Yet documents confirm that 45% of rural Tennessee hospitals remain at risk, highlighting ongoing gaps in critical care. Flood risk reports and insurance filings in Litchfield Beach and Englewood reveal how climate and cost can reshape retirement choices. While state tax codes and census data confirm real savings, the full impact of climate change and evolving healthcare access remains uncertain. The evidence is clear. Retirees seeking value have more options than ever, but every location demands trade-offs. For those willing to look beyond the familiar, the facts show that hidden gems do exist, each with its own balance of risk and reward.